Hello and welcome back to Everything Tumbler Tutorials. My name is Rebecca Escott and I'm a Tumbler designer. And in this fun tutorial today, I'm going to show you how we're going to work with a 3D dimensional drinks sleeve. Not to worry, everything from this tutorial will be listed in the description for you down below. In this tutorial, I am so excited to finally be working with the dimensional drinks sleeve as well as the tumbler. I can't deny that I was slightly intimidated by working with such a sleeve. However, I am so excited to put all of this together. The vinyl and decals that I'm going to be working with today are coming from the Drunken Flamingo. Because I've never worked with an actual sleeve before, I'm going to go ahead and sand this tumbler down very well. Once I've sanded this down, I'm going to use 100% acetone to clean it up. Not to worry, if you don't have acetone, you can easily use soap and water and clean it up. Allow it to completely dry before moving on. Now that our tumbler is nice and clean and dry, it was time to go ahead and mix up the epoxy because I am going to use the Turbo Fast Set epoxy to adhere this tumbler to the inside of the sleeve. Dimensional Drinks has so many different types and styles of different sleeves in which you can check out. They also have handles that you can adhere to your sleeve as well. So be sure to check out dimensionaldrinks.com to see what you are interested in. Once we have this slid into the sleeve, we're going to go ahead and use our finger and wipe around the edges to where it might have oozed out from the top. We're going to allow this to fully dry for at least an hour before moving on. Once it's safe to move on, I've already decided that I'm going to go ahead and add 3 different vinyls from this collection from the Drunken Flamingo instead of only 2. So one side's going to have all the disco balls, the other side's going to have a cow print, and then I'm going to have the disco and cow print combined on another side. I'm going to place all 3 sides of my vinyl before I use my X-Acto knife to trim up the bottom. This vinyl was super easy to adhere to this sleeve, but it also helps that it's squared shape, so it makes applying the vinyl super easy. I'm ready to start my next sleeve, so if you guys have any ideas and or suggestions, please drop them in the comment section for me below. Once you have all of your vinyl adhered to the tumbler, or in this case sleeve, now it's time to go ahead and flip her upside down and we're going to trim off the excess at the bottom. Keep in mind, having a sharp X-Acto knife really helps in this process. In this clip, you're going to notice that I'm just taping off only so that I can make sure that all 3 sides of my vinyl match in the height and distance from the bottom. I am going to want to go over this with nail tape, so it would just make sense to go ahead and remove this now. I've already taped off my 4th section in which we're going to ombre using Sassy, Candy, and Unicorn. Sassy and Candy are both iridescent fines, while the Unicorn is a diamond cut. 3 glitters are from AB Designs Co., and you will find them listed in the description for you below. To ombre these glitters, I am going to be using the Turbo Fast Set from Counterculture DIY. When using epoxy to apply your glitter on this type of a sleeve, you're going to really want to make sure that you get this into the grooves, as we're going to see in an upcoming clip where I clearly missed the grooves and I have 2 stripes going in, but I'll get to that and explain how I fixed that later. So getting ready to do the ombre, I am going to start with the Unicorn, which is the white down here at the bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and with the Sassy here at the top. Okay, here's where you can see the lines that I was talking about earlier. So when using the resin and epoxy to apply your glitter, you really want to make sure you rub really well into those grooves so that this doesn't happen. But I'm going to show you how we're going to fix it, which is not a problem because obviously I can't go right back in using the resin. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with my ombre. Once I've completed all 3 colors, I'm going to take this immediately outside and I'm going to clear seal this from the clear seal from Rust-Oleum. This way I can immediately seal it and go right back over with my glitters to complete this ombre. Because I am using the Turbo Fast Set from Counterculture DIY, I cannot leave that tape applied for very long or I will never get it off. Once you're happy with your ombre, we can now go ahead and immediately remove this tape. Once we've gotten all the tape removed and everything's pretty much cleaned up, we're going to allow this to completely dry before we go into our first coat of epoxy. For our first coat of epoxy, I'm going to be using the Artist Resin from Counterculture DIY. So though this was not difficult to epoxy, it was a learning curve, literally. So just take your time and apply this just as you would as a regular tumbler, the best that you can. Make sure that you have all sides covered with your epoxy, and be sure to use your heat torch to pop any bubbles you may or may not be able to see. I am absolutely obsessed with this, and I plan on keeping this for myself. So we're going to go ahead and let this fully cure for the next 6 to 8 hours, probably overnight because it's late and I'm going to go to bed soon. And I will come back to this in the morning to finish doing the nail tape and adding in the decal to finish this off. Once your tumbler is fully cured, it's time to move on for the finishing touches. However, I do want to mention that after the first coat of epoxy, I did need to do a light sanding and re-epoxy before moving on. In this particular section, I do fast forward a little bit because you have seen me use the nail tape many times before. You can, of course, use vinyl if you'd prefer it. This is a pretty pink nail tape from AB Designs, and I absolutely love it, and it's a perfect match for this tumbler. Once I was happy with all of the nail taping on all the other 3 sides, it was time to apply the decal. I have to say this is the first time I've ever used the decal from Drunken Flamingo, and it didn't come with its own contact sheet. Once it's down, it's down. I wasn't able just to easily pick this up to reposition it, so it's kind of crooked, but it's okay because I'm keeping this for myself anyways. You'll notice that I kept the stars because I'm going to move them and place them in another section because I really wanted all of the decal to be within my glittered section. So the boots and the hat, just a teeny tiny bit, is exposed, and once I do my nail taping trim for this section, I'm then going to go ahead and use my X-Acto knife to trim that off because I do not want my decal to be exposed outside of my striping. So here's where I'm just going to take that smidge off very, very carefully and then move on to finishing the striping. Once I was completely happy with all of the finishing touches, I knew this needed something else. So I went in with the MJ Magic Mix from AB Designs Co. Beautiful glitter, and it's an additive, so it does not take very much. So once I have all of my epoxy completely mixed up, I'm then just going to add in a little bit at a time just to make sure I don't overdo it. For this final coat of epoxy, I am using the Artist Resin from Counterculture DIY. Again, you're going to want this to fully cure for at least 6 to 8 hours and maybe longer depending on your climate and temperature. As always, you're going to want to be sure to use your heat torch to pop any bubbles you may or may not be able to see. And that's it for this tutorial. I really want to thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel for more tutorials coming soon. Also, be sure to check out all the links listed and provided for you down in the description box below. And I look forward to seeing you next week.